From the bowling alley in Daniel Plainview's mansion, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two men who were fired by Ryan Bingham, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Ryan Bingham, the Oscar-winning songwriter from Crazy Heart, Corey?
That was written by Jason Kroons. He's drinking your milkshake as we speak.
Which is funny because Ryan Bingham is a crooner.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Just saying. Now, we saw Ryan Bingham perform live.
We did, but this this is the other Ryan Bingham. The references to the George Clooney character Ryan Bingham from Up in the Air. See, which confused everybody because it was all the same year. There was a character Ryan Bingham, the actor of whom was Oscar nominated, and then there was a movie that had songs by Ryan Bingham, who was also Oscar nominated.
That is true. Wade, before we start,
yes,
before you start the way you always start,
yes,
which is with DVDs no one cares about, I have to do two things.
What do you have
One
to do?
is I have to turn off the air conditioning.
Okay.
Because it might be
loud.
The recording might be picking it up.
Sure, whatever. Sure.
Also, I need to get you the latest in my cavalcade of cookies. No. I have two of these cookies left. I have two left. I froze the rest of them. And you're going to like this cookie so much, you're going to ask for the second one. That's why I have two.
Okay.
So
same flavor?
No, you know what? No, it is not the same flavor. It is a different cookie. Now you go talk about something, and I'm going to go turn the air conditioner off and go get you a cookie because you're going to love it. Well,
very good. I'll talk about exploitation titles because we got a bunch of them. You know what? This is all kind of exploitation-y stuff. There's a terrific... Anybody who's listened to this podcast for any period of time knows that I absolutely love Hong Kong films and Kung Fu films. Phase 4 came out with a documentary, Films of Fury, the Kung Fu movie. This is by Rick Myers, and I'm not the biggest fan of Rick Myers, I got to be honest. Rick Myers, I've never met Rick Myers. I have orbited him over the years. We know a lot of the same people, and we bump into... a lot of the same people, and he's a bit of a self-promotional whore, I should say. But nonetheless, he does kind of know his stuff. And it's not a great film, but it's kind of nice to see a lot of the... it's sort of nice to revisit this stuff. And it's okay. It's fine. If you love this genre, it's not going to be the end-all, be-all movie about martial arts films and about kung fu films. But it's a nice addition to the compendium. Much more significant... is the blood-drenched double feature from Something Weird Video. Now, Something Weird, and this is all distributed through Image, but the Something Weird library is one that I have some experience with because when Ray Green and I made Schlock all those years ago, about a decade ago now, I guess it is, Something Weird was very kind and cut us a great deal, and we were able to use a lot of footage from their library. They are the single largest library of exploitation films from the 50s and 60s and even the 70s in existence, and it is the definitive exploitation library. And this blood-drenched double feature features two of the original Gore classics from Herschel Gordon Lewis. Now, Herschel Gordon Lewis was, of course, a nudie-cutie director for a number of years before he decided, along with David Friedman, to create the Gore film. And Blood Feast was the first one of those. The two that kind of complement that is The Wizard of Gore and The Gore Girls. Notice how the word gore appears there. Really, this is just cheesy stuff, not nearly as shocking as it used to be. The Wizard of Gore is a bit of a surreal kind of an approach. It's a little bit weird in kind of a good way. So I would say The Wizard of Gore is worth checking out if you don't mind the cheesy retro gore stuff. But
the Gore Girls features Henny Youngman.
Yeah.
It features Henny Youngman.
I know.
He's in the Gore. I mean, how cheesy can you get?
It's pretty cheesy.
Yes.
Also from Synapse, who releases a lot of this kind of stuff as well, they have they've done these great 42nd Street Forever DVDs for a long time, featuring great trailers for just psychotic exploitation films and weird cult films. And they have finally brought out 42nd Street Forever on Blu-ray, which is even better because the colors are sharper. And one thing about a lot of these movies is that the trailers were garish in their use of color, more so than the movies, actually. I'm not quite sure why the trailers looked so freakish in the way that they were printed. It could have been the stock that was being used, but it really, really manifests itself on Blu-ray. So... and this is a great thing to throw on the back of a party. Just all these funky trailers.
I love these. I remember these.
And Sugar Hill.
Yep.
L.A. Woman, Chained Heat, Welcome Home, Brother Charles,
It's great.
Werewolves on Wheels,
And
the
there's
Pink Angels. I mean, it's awesome stuff.
And there's volumes of these.
Oh, yeah, a number of volumes. And this is the original one on Blu-ray. So the others are going to be coming out on Blu-ray as well. So hold off on buying any of the others on
42nd
DVD.
Street Forever.
It's great.
Is really fun stuff.
It's great.
great. You know what? You're right. It's great for a Halloween party. You throw it in on a loop.
Oh,
people
totally.
will love it.
It's like 3 hours of stuff. More than 3 hours. It just goes on and on and on, and people will laugh, and you don't have to pay attention to the plots, and you can. It's a lot of fun. Something Weird also has a DVD that they have released, a 2 DVD set called Strip Hooray. And this is going back to kind of grindhouse burlesque movies, which this isn't great stuff, but if you're, again, a fan of the era and you kind of, have a yearning for burlesque kitsch, it's kind of weird because burlesque vanished when Nudie Cuties came in. They popped burlesque, all the burlesque theaters became adult theaters. But anyway, if these movies mean anything to you, definitely check it out. It's not titillating. Don't expect it to be titillating. It's just historically significant. The movies include Midnight Frolics, Everybody's Girl, French Follies, B-Girl Rhapsody, The ABCs of Love, which is probably the most interesting film here, and A Night in Hollywood. And all of this stuff is just completely negligible, but from a standpoint of exploitation history, it has its place. There's this very bizarre movie here. This is only significant because of Thor being in the Avengers, but there's this bizarre movie that, and this is a new movie. This isn't like anything from the 50s or 60s or 70s. This is a new movie that's been released from VCI, and the only reason I can imagine it's been released is because of the Avengers. It's called Thor at the Bus Stop. Mark, Thor at the Bus Stop.
I don't get it.
You know what? It's not good. Loaded with extras, as these films often are, because the people who make them are so thrilled to finally be getting a DVD deal, and I speak from experience here, that they throw everything on here. There's a short film that's horrible, a making of documentary, a commentary, it's they just load it up. But it's this weird kind of kitschy, low-budget comedy in which, the Norse god of thunder...
Thor he's taking the buzz through the neighborhood on his way to this big fight where he's going to die.
It's just dumb.
Yes, it is.
It really is. But, if you want to make people laugh with some kind of a takeoff on Thor. And then lastly, from the Jezebel collection, we're going to have some other Jezebel titles we're going to mention later, but this is the only exploitation-y one here. The Jezebel library is now being released by Kino Lorber. And there's a Jezebel double feature here of the films Primitive London and London in the Raw. And this is kind of what, Euro exploitation. We've all heard of Ozploitation, which is the stuff that was going on in Australia at the time, and Japan had their own exploitation stuff, and obviously the Giallo films from Italy. Everybody kind of had their own little underground cinema in the 1960s. These are from 1964 and 65, and they are the Austin Powers-y version of the burlesque films that I just mentioned. Again, not good in any way whatsoever, but it's just a weird little taste of UK kitsch from the 1960s, and especially London in the Raw, which is kind of a Mondo film. It's more of a documentary than anything else. London was never really like this, but sure, why not? Let's get into the seamy side of London in the 60s. Austin Powers would, right?
Speaking of a taste of things, Wade, you're about to taste something that will be an explosion in your mouth.
Oh gosh, Mark, we just sat through Men in Black 3.
Yes, we did.
And I've got a screaming headache.
No, you have an appetite. You want my new thumbprint cookie.
Is there like peanut butter in this?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
You love peanut butter.
Peanuts make me break out. I'm just warning you.
So what? Who cares?
Okay. I feel like Woody Allen saying peanuts make me break out.
So this is this is peanut butter dough, and it's a chocolate ganache thumbprint in the middle. It's a thumbprint cookie.
You mean your thumb touched this?
Oh yeah, not just my thumb.
Where's that thumb been? All right, here goes. Jeez, people are enjoying me eating your cookies on the show. They enjoy it more than us talking about Blu-rays.
Well, you know what? Because you talk about the crappiest Blu-rays.
Blu-ray schmooray, make Wade eat a cookie.
All right. Here we
Wade is
go.
now eating a cookie. This is truly the moment you've all been waiting for. All I care about is redeeming myself from last week's cookie, which was terrible. Now, this cookie is very good. I think this is a good cookie. Now, Wade, yeah, it's disgusting. Come on, tell me that's not better than last week.
Taking a little drink of water here. I have to, rinse the palate.
It was definitely a good week for that cookie. Tell me that's not better than last week's cookie.
Well, last week's cookie was a cow patty.
I know, it's terrible.
It was like vaguely chocolate flavored styrofoam.
It was terrible. I got
stale
this,
styrofoam.
No, I got this recipe from a Sur La Table book, a bakery.
I like Sur La Table.
Well, there you go.
Nice place.
That's true. I got the recipe from a Sur La Table book.
Yeah, this is good.
Thank you very much.
This is good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice.
It's a
The
thumbprint
chocolate.
cookie.
The chocolate it's very nice chocolate in the middle. I don't know where you got it from, but you did a good job.
It's ganache. It's you make ganache. You buy a bar of chocolate. You break it up into pieces, put it in a medium bowl, take 2 cups of cream, boil the cream, and then you pour the cream into the medium bowl holding the pieces of chocolate bar. And then you let that sit for about a minute, and then you take a whisk, and you whisk the cream into the chocolate.
This ganache tastes good. Why do people weep and wail when they eat this?
Huh?
They'll be weeping and wailing and ganashing of teeth. Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The shortest show ever. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Ganache is great. First of all, it's very easy to make. Mm-hmm. People think it's exotic. Ooh, ganache! Wow, but it has 2 ingredients: a chocolate bar you get from the store and some cream. That's all it has. Now, I'm just saying, Wade, I have another one of those with your name on it because I knew you'd like it.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So if you'd like another one, I do have one with your name on it.
A different cookie, though.
No, it's the same. It's a thumbprint cookie.
With the ganache?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, weep and wail me.
See, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
look at that. See, I have redeemed myself from last week.
Do it.
I will get you that cookie.
Get me that cookie, and I'll knock out a few more films.
Now, the rest of the cookies, I froze. I have some more.
Okay.
But you're not getting them. You're not getting those. You are getting the 2 that I've earmarked for you.
Fine. So be it. Yeah. We got a few animated things here. And as I digest that cookie, Tom and Jerry around the world. I just want them to release all the original Tom and Jerry films, all the original Tom and Jerry shorts, and
Tom and Jerry's lame. Tom and Jerry, lame.
They won some Oscars.
Never liked them.
Anyway.
Don't get it.
Yeah, well.
And also the new Tom and Jerry's. And when I say new at this point, we're talking like the last 15 years worth of Tom and Jerry's are all terrible.
Yes, true. Very much so. Well, this stuff is predominantly new, and I can't say I'm enamored of most of it, but at least it's Tom and Jerry for a certain generation. It has been worse. Tom and Jerry have gone through a lot of iterations, and the stuff that they had in the 80s, you got to admit, the 80s were the worst decade for Tom and Jerry.
The 80s was a bad decade for a lot of animation.
The 80s Tom and Jerry, they don't even chase each other. They're like buddies. They like do stuff together. It's stupid. It's
that was like Itchy and Scratchy being friends.
It makes no sense. You watch it and you just go, how is this in any way Tom and Jerry? Why not just call them, Schmitz and Frodo? Why do we? It's just stupid. But anyway, Tom and Jerry around the world, 22 little cartoons, 22 shorts here, they're fine. I mean, this isn't the classic Oscar-winning stuff, but it'll do if you need your fix. And then Thundercats is season 1, book 2. I just
right now somebody is dreaming of a live-action Thundercats movie.
Well, the
$175 million on a Thundercats movie.
Let's hope not, because I want to call attention to something here. Thundercats, we've talked about before. I don't get it. It's like take the Avengers version of the Broadway show Cats. I kind of don't get it. They're like cat people and they're heroes. And
there was a very funny Onion story with the headline, Michael Bay signs $50 million deal to screw up Thundercats.
That's brilliant.
In the largest deal ever made to crap out a movie, Warner Brothers and director Michael Bay announced a landmark $50 million agreement this week to monumentally screw up Thundercats. That was the Onion article.
That's hysterical. That's really funny. That's
I
very,
couldn't
very
be
funny.
more excited to completely screw up this movie, said Bay.
I guess Masters of the Universe might even be another example.
Thundercats this is a quote from quote unquote Michael Bay. Thundercats has a great story and daring characters, action, adventure, space travel, and fantasy. It will be an honor to run it into the ground. I will use every directorial tool I have to suck the very life and charm out of this beloved cartoon. I won't rest until I get every last scene exactly wrong.
I love the Onion. Now, Mark, here's the reason I bring this up. Because Americans, when you say to American animators, come on, get back on track here. When you say to American animators, oh, come on, people as cats, they think, I know, heroes, superheroes. They think Thundercats, American animators. If you say to Japanese animators, people, cats, where do their minds go? Cat Planet Cuties.
Darn right. And I'll tell you, I have been to Japan. I've been to Japan. I've been to their convenience stores where in the back they have all that sexual theme manga stuff. They are a crazy society.
This is and from Thundercats to Cat Planet Cuties. It's all about the cats and the animated cats today. Now, this is a Blu-ray DVD combo pack. 12 tail-twitching episodes plus one perfectly playful OVA. That whole OVA thing. Anyway, completely back to this. This is from Funimation. When I got this, I looked at this. I've never heard of Cat Planet Cuties before, but the cover of the thing has.
It was a series of novels. I mean, it's one of those Japanese novel series that it's like it's
adorably cute-looking, big-eyed anime girl with long red hair, the ears of a cat. She's wearing like stockings, and you can see a little bit of her thigh, and she's got enormous breasts. And the whole thing is just clearly so erotic and provocative. And I thought, what is going on here? So before I even watched any of this, I emailed Charles Solomon, our good friend Charles Solomon, who is the animation expert, who's written, books on Beauty and the Beast and the history of Pixar and everything. Charles and I are on the radio every so often. And I said, Charles, seriously, dude, Cat Planet Cuties, please explain. And he said, yeah, someday someone's going to have to write a thesis about why the Japanese find women with cat ears so adorable. And I said, Charles, it's not the cat ears. It's the lingerie and the nudity. Mark, this comic book comes with the thing. I show you this picture. Please describe what I'm showing to you.
Look at where the gun is.
I don't understand.
The Japanese are.
And by the way, it's totally indicative. All that comic book is indicative of the show. You pop this thing in, and it takes about 5 seconds to go, oh, this ain't for kids.
No, much of Japanese manga and much of Japanese animation is not for kids. They're a very strange society because their fetishes are unique to themselves, and they all and you know what? And they all hide in plain sight.
Oh God!
They all hide in plain sight. This stuff is out there for you to buy at convenience stores and bookstores all around Japan, and yet somehow like
these are naked and bikini-clad women who have cat ears and tails.
Yes.
Is this like some Playboy bunny type weird thing? What the hell is this fetish? This is bizarre.
They think it's cute. They think it's adorable.
I'm sure.
This is how they sexualize their women.
Okay. More power to you. Jeez.
Cat Planet Cutie.
Japan never ceases to amaze me.
They are, you know what? I telling you.
And
they're
then
crazy.
On the eve of Madagascar 3, which for some reason was all the rage at the Cannes Film Festival recently.
I know. It was getting, you know what? I just got the invite. I trashed it. I don't want to see Madagascar 3.
I hated Madagascar 1. I didn't even see number 2. What's the point?
You know who co-wrote 3? Noah Baumbach.
Oh, joy. He'll instill gold. What are we gonna have, like a neurotic Jewish penguin? Will that save the franchise?
No, it's a neurotic Jewish lemur.
Oh, there we go. Well, anyway, because of Madagascar, we keep getting these Madagascarian knockoff things, and another one of them is the Jungle Bunch, the movie, which for some reason John Lithgow signed on to because he's just increasingly desperate in his career. It's been straight downhill ever since the end of Third Rock. But anyway, this is the story of a penguin raised in the jungle. Done. Do you need to know anything else? It's a total Madagascar knockoff. They also have a bunch of little short films on here, but it really is just strictly for the very, very super young who won't realize that what they're watching is in no way related to Madagascar.
Wait, that was so brilliant that you earned yourself another cookie.
Thank you. And then the last animated thing before we finally get into feature films is Nickelodeon's Real Monsters Season 2.
This is like a Monsters Inc. show where it's all about monsters who are going to school to learn to become monsters.
Well, this is from Shout Factory, and Shout is usually an indicator that it's pretty good. And I don't particularly like any of these. I don't particularly think this series is as smart as a lot of other people do, but I do think the animation is just tweaked enough to be admirable. So, you can enjoy how kind of perverse it is in that Crick Falusi sort of way.
Well, that's that Klasky Coop Shupo company. They do lots of tweaked animation like SpongeBob.
Starting all the way back to Rugrats, they but tweaked. But Crick Falusi's the guy who introduced tweaked, and then Klasky Shupo got on the bandwagon. Well,
it's funny because they do have in common that the animation is tweaked. But what Chris Falusi did is he made the characters and the music and the presentation and the directing and all of that is just not just tweaked. It is drug induced. It's great stuff. Ren and Stimpy.
Very true.
That was Chris Falusi. Okay.
Very true.
Is that true, Wade? Did you have cookie in your mouth?
No, I have a cookie in my mouth.
I feel totally vindicated after last week. Thank you. Wade, the big there's a couple of decent DVD or Blu-ray releases this week. And when I say decent, I mean, notable titles. I'm not saying good movies. No. I'm just saying notable titles. Yeah. First is This Means War, starring two up-and-coming actors who should know better. Chris Pine and Tom Hardy.
Gosh, I hated this movie.
This was a terrible movie, and it also co-starred Reese Witherspoon, who's got to make better choices because this is terrible. This was directed by McGee, and I guess for those hoping this was a return to form for him, I'm just going to say he never had a form, so there's nothing to return to.
This is you know what this is? This is basically a remake of Tequila Sunrise mixed with every bad action genre franchise from the 80s. It's like a what would be a dumb spy film from the 80s? It's like Die Hard meets some kind of it's like Die Hard meets True Lies meets Tequila Sunrise. There you go. How's that?
This is just
it's terrible.
This is just a loud and insultingly bad, poorly structured, not a whole lot of action, just terrible movie. This was a misbegotten film.
It is that classic love triangle thing from Tequila Sunrise, except mixed with the True Lies angle, which is you got these two studly young spies played by Chris Pine and
Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, our future Mad Max 4. Which, by the way, he just said at Cannes. Tom Hardy was being interviewed at Cannes. He goes, "Yeah, I have no idea when Mad Max 4 will happen. I'm signed on, but they just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it." Do you know when the first announcement of Fury Road was?
It was like 2-3 years ago.
2003. 9 years ago. It's like, come on, George, get on with it already.
Well, supposedly they were supposed to shoot last year, but I guess there were rains in the
whatever
part of Australia
and
he wanted to shoot it.
It didn't look desolate anymore.
Right. So Tom Hardy, who I love, I got to say he doesn't quite have the that light touch for comedy.
No.
But I think he's great. I love the fact that a guy like him is around because he's a very intense actor.
Two spies going for the same woman, but they're not going to tell her that they're spies.
That's right, they're not.
Ooh, what a novel concept.
Anyway, this is really terrible stuff. There's a whole lot of special features on it, but who cares because the movie sucks.
Oh, it's just dreadful. It really is. You know what's pretty great this week, I got to say, as long as we're talking about 80s action films, and I can't recommend the whole thing, but they did finally come out with the Lethal Weapon collection on Blu-ray, which includes gobs and gobs and gobs of extras, including brand new behind-the-scenes documentaries and featurettes, and that's fine. None of that stuff is these are kind of a look back. The featurettes are, and none of them are really that great because, frankly, behind the scenes of the Lethal Weapon movies isn't that enthralling. I would recommend this only if you feel like Lethal Weapon 3 and Lethal Weapon 4 are just so awesome, wicked, compelling that you cannot do without them. But really, honestly, Lethal Weapon 1 is a good film. I think Lethal Weapon 2 is a terrific film. And that's it. Then the franchise basically ends. Now, there are also a lot of people out there who think, what the hell, Mel Gibson? He's like a racist Nazi psychopath guy now with mental brain chemistry issues. Why would I want to have anything to do with him? Well, because that's essentially the character he plays here. He's crazy.
You know, in Lethal...
The character of Riggs is probably the closest thing that you're ever going to get to the real Mel Gibson on film.
Well, especially Lethal Weapon 1. The thing is that in Lethal Weapon 1, he was dangerously nuts. But in the other ones, he becomes sort of like, you know, endearingly dangerous.
I have to say that one of my all-time favorite moments in movies. Here's the thing that drives me nuts with American movies. American movies have no problem being ridiculously violent. Like even Men in Black 3. Weren't you not amazed at how violent that movie is for a PG-13 film?
Well, yeah, I mean they have a ray gun and aliens just blow up into just.
But like the Jermaine what's it character? Boris.
It's pretty intense.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
He's like killing people and shooting darts out of his hand and crap. I mean it's insanely violent, and yet the kind of violence that really gratifies me in movies, they so rarely do. It's those great cathartic release moments of just pure righteous vengeance. You just don't get those moments very often in movies. And I can name two where you just sit there in the theater and you cheer. One of them is in Lethal Weapon 2. And it's not the one where he drops the cage on the dude.
But is it the... Oh, wait. I know what you're talking about. It's the scene where Danny Glover's sitting on the toilet.
No.
And there's a bomb in the toilet.
No. It's the scene where he kills the guy by slamming the car door on his head. That is just such an awesome moment because it's the kind of thing we've all sort of fantasized about doing to someone that we like. Someone's threatening my family. I'll put his head right in the side, slam the car door on his head, and the body goes limp. It's a beautiful, beautiful moment of vengeful violence. And the other one is when Daniel Day-Lewis in The Last of the Mohicans just swings that axe and takes out Magua. Beautiful.
Well, I'll give you two
Beautiful.
more. One is Most of Taken.
Yeah, true, totally.
And the other one is, and you, I flashed on this, is the
Shakes the Clown. Shakes the Clown,
yes.
where he urinates
on Florence Henderson.
Where the kid, whatever it is.
The scene in Avengers,
yes,
when Hulk picks up the bad guy and slams him on the floor.
Yeah, that's a good one, but that's cartoonish.
Awesome. That was awesome.
So anyway, moving on. We're spending too much time on this.
All right, Red Tails. Here's the thing with Red Tails, Wade. This was a film that George Lucas has been waiting for 20 years to make, and
he'd probably love for it to be known as John Lucas after this one.
And this is the result. This was directed by a guy named Anthony Hemingway, and the problem with this movie is that, first of all, it is told in way too modern a fashion. There's a lot of modern dialogue, modern acting, modern delivery, and this is all about the Tuskegee Airmen, who deserve a great movie in their honor, of course. But they're not getting it here. This is very cornball, and it's a weird combination. Part of it is cornball, but part of it is very modern, and especially in the performances and the dialogue. And it really just doesn't work. There was an HBO film called The Tuskegee Airmen years ago.
Much better.
Which is much better than Red Tails. Obviously, because it's George Lucas and all he cares about are effects, the flying scenes are very energetic. However, they're very artificial.
Yep.
They really are. We had talked about, or I had seen Wings, the first film to win the Best Picture Oscar from 1927. And in Wings, the actors who play the aviators, the World War I aviators, they flew their own planes. And you saw them. There was a camera mounted on the nose of the plane looking at the actor, and the actor was flying his own GD plane.
You know what?
Doing it himself. Now, here in this film, it's all CGI, so it looks phony, it looks artificial, and you don't get that sense of danger, knowing that the actual actor is in the plane flying it himself.
But the actual CGI artists are flying their own planes.
Yes,
Doesn't that count for something?
Is that what they call getting stoned nowadays? Flying your own plane? Is that what they call it? Anyway, it's a good-looking disc because it's all CGI. There's a couple of decent featurettes on it. There's a featurette on Terrence Blanchard, the composer, who I never liked.
I like Blanchard.
Really?
His score for Malcolm X is great.
You know what?
That is a great score.
I guess I don't like a lot of his Spike.
Well,
Lee
he's
stuff.
he's a jazz guy, you know. I mean, so if you don't need a jazz score, but I mean, he really it's kind of jazz orchestral fusion, and the Malcolm X score is terrific. I thought it was great. Out on Blu-ray and DVD in a lovely combo disc from Disney is The Secret World of Arrietty. Now, this is an extremely odd, a very, very odd film because this is from Studios Ghibli, which most people identify as basically being the Hayao Miyazaki studio. Miyazaki produced this. He didn't direct it. He just kind of threw his name on it, threw his studio behind it. But the director, Hiromasa Yonebayashi, or however you pronounce it, Yonebayashi, doesn't have the same panache, doesn't have the same vision, even though if he did, I'm not sure the movie would be even any better, though. And here's what's weird. This is based on The Borrowers. Now, The Borrowers is a series of very, very famous books that were previously made into, you remember the movie The Borrowers? Mary Norton wrote the novel series, and it's British. It's a British series of novels. And the whole thing takes place in England, but they're like reading Japanese books in places. It's a very strange kind of fusion thing. But The Borrowers is a story of this family who moves into this house, or they have this house, and there's like a family of little people, a race of little people who live underneath the house. It doesn't ring a bell? It's like a John Goodman movie.
It was directed by, it might have been Peter Jackson.
No, Peter Jackson didn't do it.
No, somebody famous did The Borrowers. I'm going to find it.
Well, anyway, the live-action Borrowers did not do terribly well years ago when it was made. And so it's kind of weird because I was sitting on the Disney lot watching The Secret... Peter Hewitt, there you go. I was watching The Secret World of Arrietty, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. And it's about halfway through the movie when I turned to Tim, and I was like, wait a minute, have we seen this before? He goes, yeah, there was a live-action Borrowers. And then you kind of put two and two together because it just doesn't recall it in any way. It's a sweet film. It's endearing in a certain way. You know, it has that quality that so many classic children's books have, where it's the discovery of the fantastic, where you reconcile yourself to this other world, and where somehow there's a meeting of the minds, and it teaches you about tolerance and about wonder and imagination and discovery and all of those things.
I'll have none of that.
But at the same time, you just kind of feel that it's a little bit tired and that anime may not be the best vehicle for this particular story. Nonetheless, the Blu-ray is gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. Disney does a lovely job when they commit anything animated to Blu-ray. They really have that down. And even though I think the movie is lacking, and I think the voice talent tries hard, but sometimes goes a little bit over, Will Arnett and Amy Poehler, you know, husband and wife in real life, are decent. Carol Burnett is
Will Arnett, who, by the way, is in Men in Black 3.
No, yeah, briefly.
Has a cameo in that.
But Carol Burnett is ridiculous in this. She's just obnoxious, and it's really tragic.
Carol Burnett's awesome. We love Carol Burnett.
Very unfortunate.
Wait, speaking of unfortunate, we have The Woman in Black. This features Daniel Radcliffe, who is, if he's trying to break away from the whole Harry Potter thing, I don't know if this is the way to do it. It's not a bad gothic kind of horror film. It's one of the newer films in the resurrection of the Hammer name.
Yes.
The Hammer line of gothic horror films back in the day, of which Let Me In was the first, directed by Matt Reeves. A terrific film that was totally overlooked, which is just bizarre to me, but there you go. Woman in Black, Daniel Radcliffe plays he's a lawyer who lost his wife, and he's sent to this remote village, and there's a secret in the village, and he finds out what it is. And, this really should have been a lot worse than it is. I can't say it's, amazing, but I was expecting a lot worse. Again, if Radcliffe is going to break free from Harry Potter, he's going to have to do a little better than this. The DVD, this is the DVD, by the way, not the Blu-ray that I'm holding. The DVD features a commentary with the director, James Watkins, and the screenwriter. There's also a featurette. You know, I guess if you're a Daniel Radcliffe completist, you're going to want it. But otherwise, I think there's better gothic horror films out there. But I was surprised that the film was even remotely decent, The Woman in Black.
Yeah, well. And, Mark, I want to blow through some... we got a bunch of new Miramax catalog releases from Echo Bridge that I should blow through right now. since they are...
Now, these are not Blu-rays.
These are not Blu-rays, but this is, Echo Bridge has the license to a lot of these obscure Miramax titles that, are not going to be coming out from Lionsgate simply because they're not the A-list Miramax titles. So again, I find that always interesting to see what, a lot of this is stuff, we've completely forgotten about, like a very, very, very young Renee Zellweger in Shake, Rattle, and Roll. And she's good. In many ways, much better than she is in a lot of the stuff she's doing now because she just doesn't have the weight, the burden of being such a huge star to kind of carry along. This was made in 1994. She was nobody at the time and directed by Alan Arkush. Remember Alan Arkush, Rock and Roll High School?
Yeah, Rock and Roll High School.
Yeah.
He was cool.
Alan Arkush, a real...
He had a moment.
He had a moment. He did. And this is a cute little film. It's not bad. It's it's a little bit of a low budget snapshot of when rock and roll was taking the world by storm and taking America by storm. And she, of course, is this, she's the young girl who has to somehow step out of her shell and embrace this and become who she's going to be. Not a great film, but you know what? Since most of us have never seen this, I thought it was kind of a nice little revelation. Judy Garland, Me and My Shadows, otherwise known as Life with Judy Garland, Me and My Shadows. This features the amazing, amazing performance as Judy Garland by Judy Davis. This was a television production, and I didn't know that it was part of the Miramax library until it arrived, and that I found really fascinating. This was nominated for a ton of Emmy Awards, and it won 5 of them. And including one for Judy Davis, and she really is amazing. Judy Garland is such an iconic figure that with her, she had her own show, and she made tons of television specials and movies and albums. And how do you even begin to portray somebody like that realistically without it looking like a total, complete, just weird drag queen imitation? And somehow she does it. Judy Davis just nails it. She nails it. It's just so good.
She had a relatively extended moment, Judy Davis.
Yeah. Like
maybe the late 80s, early 90s, maybe?
Well, it started primarily in 1984 with Passage to India. That's when she really kind of appeared. And she got an Oscar nomination for that, and of course didn't win. But
she did a couple of Woody Allen films, Deconstructing Harry, and Husbands and Wives, which is a great Woody Allen film, totally overlooked, with an amazing performance from Sidney Pollack. She was in Barton Fink. She definitely had a moment, and I think she's kind of gone now a little bit. I'm not sure what she's doing, but we do love her.
And then also out a film that had a nice little moment as well, Italian for Beginners, which was directed by Lone Scherfig before she went on to do An Education, and she's now she got An Education was nominated for Best Picture the same year as Hurt Locker. There were 2 women nominated for Best Picture.
Well, unfortunately, after that, she went on to do that horrible. What was that called again? That ridiculous.
It wasn't bad. I actually kind of.
No, it was One Day.
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't. I mean, it's not good, but it's not. It's not.
It's not what you want her to.
No, true.
Follow up education with.
Italian for Beginners was her kind of big breakthrough, and it's not terribly well shot. I mean, it's really grainy and edgy and a little bit sloppy, but. You know what? It captures a certain Italian magic and a certain sense of low-budget indie romance, and it's got a certain European flair to it, and I thought it was fine. The only thing that I'm not fond of is the fact that it was formerly a Dogma film. So that was a little disappointing. I'm glad that she's veered away from Dogma because I think her style is better suited to other things. To more polished films. Pastime is a little baseball movie that also had kind of a moment. And Mark and I actually have something of a history with this film because the guy who co-produced and directed it, who never made any other movies, by the way. I mean, this goes all the way back to, 92, 93, something like that. This guy, Robin B. Armstrong, who produced and directed it, has done nothing since. Would go on to do absolutely nothing else, which is a bit ironic. And now the story here takes place in 1957. And it's about a minor league team that signs this really, really talented young kid played by Glenn Plummer. And it has a sort of a quasi-spiritual quality to it. And, Mark, do you remember we met with Robin B. Armstrong once? And I don't even remember why, but it was like a house in the valley. And you and I, was it with our friend Norman? Who was with us? Somebody else was with us.
I have no memory of the. The only memory I have of this, I guess I have two memories. One is my complete confidence that it actually happened.
Yeah.
But the other memory I have is you referring to this guy as the David Koresh of filmmaking.
Well, it was your phrase. You were the one who came up with that.
I did?
All I remember was we had made the appointment for some reason. I can't even remember why it was or in what capacity. I think it was through a friend of ours who came with us. I don't remember if we went with Norman or anybody, but we went there, and all I remember was it's this house in the valley, and we went into the office part of it, and there were all of these young guys floating around just saying, oh, Robin really, really believes in doing positive themed films, Robin this and Robin that. And it had a weird kind of culty feel to it. And it was after all of that goopy, oozy, new agey stuff and him holding court like some kind of guru that we walked out and we're walking past an ivy-covered wall. I don't know why I remember the ivy-covered wall. And you said, that guy is the David Koresh of filmmaking. And, of course, he's made no movie since. Which I find,
and oddly enough, neither has David Koresh. So see, it's all coming together.
And then to wrap out the Miramax bit, there's K2 with Michael Biehn and Matt Craven, mountain climbing movie. Not bad. K2, of course, is the second tallest mountain in the world. It is taller than anything other than Mount Everest. It's in Pakistan, but it is considered by many to be even harder to climb than Everest because it's got sheer cliffs and it's just psychotic. And this is a pretty good adventure movie.
Actually, four people died on Mount Everest today.
Oh, really?
Did you read that story?
No.
Yeah, the 4 people died descending
awful.
Mount Everest today.
Great. Lame. That's terrible. Well, thanks for bumming my review of this film. But Frank Rodham, another guy who had a brief but fruitful career in the 80s, does a very, very good job here. I think it's a better film than it has been given credit for, and it's definitely worth checking out. And then lastly is this horribly misguided and misbegotten film Diamonds with Kirk Douglas and Dan Aykroyd and Jenny McCarthy, and a bit of a cameo from Lauren Bacall. Boy, I'll tell you, Kirk Douglas just... post-stroke should not be showing up in movies. It's just not a good thing. But anyway, this is from 1999 and better left not really considered. So that's the Miramax rundown. And real quickly also, as long as we're doing it, there's another Eclipse release from Criterion. This is Eclipse Series 33. Can't believe we're up to 33. And this is an Eclipse release that would have no reason to exist if not for the fact that Robert Downey Jr. is making $50 million off of the Avengers. And they figured, well, why not? His dad directed a bunch of crappy movies back in the day. Let's see if we can get a little juice out of that. So this is Up All Night with Robert Downey Sr. And I'm sure a lot of people don't realize that Robert Downey Sr. actually had a career as somebody somewhat marginally significant in the movies. But he did. He directed a bunch of stuff, including the classic films Bobo 73, Chafed Elbows, No More Excuses, Putney Swope, and 2 Tons of Turquoise to Taos Tonight. None of these are in any way memorable at all, except for Putney Swope.
Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. That is a bit of a cult classic. And because it's so much about the moment, the 60s, the 70s, everything that was in that transitional moment that was, about consumer culture and politics and race and all that stuff. But otherwise, really not a very interesting filmmaker. That's the one that makes this probably worth getting. The others are all completely negligible. So good thing his son made good, because otherwise we'd have forgotten about him completely.
'Tis true. Wade, we have 2 movies that you'll just have to pass on, but we're letting you know that they're around. One is a 2-disc special edition of a film from 1966 called A Bullet for the General. Now, A Bullet for the General is part of a subgenre of Western called the Zapata Western. Now, there's the Spaghetti Western, which is Italian. The Zapata Western is kind of a Mexican thing, and it's a fairly defined genre where it's a Western where the bad guys kind of get, they get rehabilitated and they become heroes in the end. And the only person you will have heard of in this film is Klaus Kinski, who is not Mexican, and yet somehow he's in this film. I have to say, the Blue Underground, they often do a lot of great stuff, and they did do a terrific job of resurrecting A Bullet for the General on Blu-ray. There's a bunch of good stuff on it. I can't believe Klaus Kinski is in this. It is just bizarre. But, it's all about like the rebel general and the gringo who's, brings his own mores to the fight and all that kind of stuff. So Bullet for the General, not great, but it's an interesting example of the subgenre of Zapata Western. Not a Zapata Western, but also pretty bad, is a movie called The Beyond with Jon Voight, Terry Polo, and Dermot Mulroney. This is about a search for a missing child. This is a very standard police procedural type film. This is something you might see, frankly, if it wasn't for the cast, you'd see it on cable. Not a fan of this film. I am a fan of Jon Voight, and during the original Meet the Parents, I thought Terry Polo was quite cute. But now she's gotten older, as we all have, and she's not as cute. Anyway, The Beyond, about a missing girl and this psychic who tries to find her, not that great. Totally worth passing on.
I have got to recommend the Blu-ray of Perfect Sense. I'm stunned that this did not get any kind of a significant theatrical release. IFC Films should be ashamed of themselves. They just don't care about so many of their films. They buy these things like at fire sales, at markets and festivals, and then they just do nothing with them. If they had an ounce of sense, they would have put several $1 million into marketing this thing, putting it out into the theaters, television campaign, because this could have done really, really well theatrically. Perfect Sense is from director David Mackenzie, who got totally shafted by IFC Films, and I'd be furious if I were in his shoes. David Mackenzie, of course, did Young Adam, which was a terrific film that had a kind of an NC-17 stir at the time, if you remember, with the oral sex scene between Tilda Swinton and Ewan McGregor. Do you remember that whole toss-up?
Indeed, I do.
Yeah. Completely unjustified, but it was a fuss for a moment. And David Mackenzie's a very talented director, and I think this may be his best film. It is a fascinating, weird, existential romance thriller. I'd even say near-apocalyptic, sci-fi, existential, quasi-fantasy romance thriller. Eva Green, who I don't always like all that much, is very good in here. And it's a romance between Ewan McGregor and Eva Green as two people who are falling in love during this weird global epidemic that is stripping away people's perceptions and senses. It's a totally unusual and unconventional film. Not entirely successful, but incredibly beautifully shot in anamorphic widescreen. Looks gorgeous on Blu-ray. Just a sensational Blu-ray. There I give IFC some props. And the fact that it's so ambitious, I can't help but recommend it. If you're not going to buy it, at least rent it. At least it's been on VOD for months. But the Blu-ray really is just pristine and beautiful, and you got to check it out.
Wade with the left field recommendation.
I'm telling you.
Oh, The Odessa File is based on the novel by Frederick Forsyth, which was published in the early 70s, and they turned it into a film. Ronald Neame, who also directed The Poseidon Adventure. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he did. And you know what? Ronald Neame, he just died recently. Ronald Neame lived to be well into his 90s, I'm pretty sure.
It's like 98 or 99, yeah. I'll look it up.
And Poseidon Adventure, I think, is his best film. But I like The Odessa File. It's one of those, kind of a pulpy spy thrillery things with Jon Voight, who we just talked about, starring in the otherwise forgettable The Beyond. But I did like The Odessa File. It takes place right after the assassination of JFK, and it's about the search for a Nazi SS concentration camp commander. Yes,
he died in June of 2010 at the age of 99.
Isn't that bizarre?
It sucks he didn't make it to 100.
You gotta wonder. It's like, is he like, let me make it to 100?
Man,
when you're really, I have a question about really old people, or when you're really old, do you think to yourself, I want to have another piece of cake? I want to have just one more steak. I want you can't digest it anymore. You're over it. You've forgotten about it. You eat your applesauce and that's it. Do you crave foods, or are you just over it?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, you're 98 years old.
No, I'm getting there. I don't crave anything anymore. I schlep around and
that's not true.
I soil myself and
you soil yourself
on a regular basis.
Good job. Anyway, Jon Voight, Maximilian Schell, Derek Jacobi. It's got a good cast, and I did like this film. It was called The Odessa File from 1974, and it's good. It's very much it's like those Eye of the Needle and even Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It's in that sort of vein.
I've got a goodie and a baddie here. This goodie is, let's start with the baddie. The baddie features, together again for the first time, Charlton Heston and Jean-Claude Van Damme. You never thought you'd see them make a movie together, did you?
But that's a great 6 degrees if you need it. You can always pull it out of your butt.
If you're ever playing that game, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Charlton Heston together in the order. This is just one of those horribly stupid Jean-Claude Van Damme movies that was made when his career was completely in decline. This is an Avi Lerner deal from Millennium. And that just means they crap this thing out. It makes no sense whatsoever, and it means to be this global thriller and have these giant geopolitical ramifications, but really it's just an excuse for Jean-Claude Van Damme to, go around and do a lot of splits, which is really all he ever does. He's a terrible fighter in movies. And then the goodie on Blu-ray from Criterion is Certified Copy. Abbas Kiarostami's film.
I love this film.
This is a great film.
I do. I love it. It's a great.
It's a terrific film. It's a very unconventional film, but Kiarostami stepped outside of Iran to make this film in 2010, and it features a performance from Juliette Binoche that will just floor you. And I know we expect her to just be brilliant every single time, but Mark, come on, is this not like one of the best things she has ever done?
I think it's great.
She's just amazing.
This film plays tricks on you. You don't know whether the couple are they a couple, or are they not a couple, are they playing a game, are they breaking up, are they even together? And the guy who plays the lead guy, he's never been in a film. The guy who plays the lead, he's like an opera singer. He's never been in a film.
I know.
And his acting is he's a little green.
William Schimmel.
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
A little green, but very commanding.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful, and it is a great transfer. Sensational DTS audio, really very, very just subtle sounds and very sensitively done. Great sound design. And it also includes the 1977 film The Report by director Abbas Kiarostami. And it's interesting because it's, I've never seen The Report, but it actually is similar in some respects. So he clearly, a lot of these themes he's been, percolating for many, many, many years. There's an interview with Kiarostami and an Italian documentary on the making of the film. So it is. This is a lovely, lovely Blu-ray. Great pickup for Criterion. I'm so glad that they got it and it didn't just get crapped out there and in regular routine fashion. You know what, Mark? I'll let you. We're going to get into some.
Yes, Wade.
We're going to get into some television here in a second, but I just want to. We talked about the two of the Jezebel titles from Kino, and these should be mentioned because these are a couple of weeks old, and we should at least point people in their direction. Girl on a Motorcycle was not originally part of the Jezebel library because the Jezebel library was mostly kind of French horror and weird European exploitation stuff. But Girl on a Motorcycle has somehow fallen into that library, and it's a good thing because this is a great, great transfer. Kino has really perked it up. It's out on DVD and on Blu-ray. I highly recommend the Blu-ray, directed by Jack Cardiff, one of the all-time great British directors of his era. This is from 1968 and features a totally cool and groovy pairing of French star Alain Delon and Marianne Faithfull. And Marianne Faithfull, had that moment when she was one of the hot things. And this is just one of the coolest, swinging, groovy 60s pairings you will ever see. It's a little bit like I don't want to compare it too much to Breathless, but there's a touch of Breathless in this. And it really is a slick, cool film, totally representative of the era. And what I had forgotten was it was actually based on a novel. And Les Reed does the music, totally of the era, really cool. Just highly recommended. Definitely check it out on Blu-ray. It's just such a swinging film. And King Vidor's Bird of Paradise is also out. This is from the Kino Classics Selznick collection, which you got to get on Blu-ray. It's DVD and Blu-ray, but there's just no other way to even consider looking at this other than on Blu-ray. Made in 1932, one of a very early period. This is kind of a pre-code film. Nothing in it that's particularly pre-code, but it is a pre-code film technically. And beautifully, beautifully shot. One of the great King Vidor films of all time. And it's an adventure film. It's an adventure romance. Very kind of. You can see that how this inspires a lot of other films that are going to come thereafter. A very young Joel McRae, not quite at his peak movie star abilities, but very compelling just the same. Dolores Del Rio, a name that's kind of vanished and shouldn't because she was just terrific in her day. So really, you got to check this out. This is a wonderful lost gem, Bird of Paradise, really, really worth looking at from the Selznick collection from Kino, which I hope we get a lot more of.
Oh, Wade. I have something cool. Dean Martin Variety Show. Now, at Time Life, make fun of Time Life if you will, but sometimes they really unearth some great old TV shows.
Yeah, they do.
And the Dean Martin Show. Dean Martin, of course, was the some say the best of the Rat Packers. I loved Sammy, but some people like Dean. Other people love Frank. We all love Frank. But I'm just saying that let's say Frank is the favorite. Frank is everybody's favorite. I was partial to Sammy. A lot of people partial to Dean. But anyway, what people don't remember is that Dean Martin did a network comedy show every week for like 8 years. And it was a great show. It was the Dean Martin Show. And this DVD set, the Dean Martin Variety Show Uncut, is a whole bunch of individual episodes of the show. And it's just great stuff. Here's some of the celebrities who are on this DVD, not Blu-ray, DVD. Buck Owens, Bob Newhart, Dom DeLuise, Sid Caesar, George Goebel, Jackie Mason, Buddy Ebsen, Zero Mostel, Tommy Toon, Leslie Uggams. Great stuff. I love the Dean Martin Show. It's great. I wish there was a featurette that would explain to people how this show came about, because it's a pretty interesting story about how Dean Martin did not want to do a network show because he didn't want to have the weekly responsibility, and he couldn't do movies, he couldn't do nightclub appearances.
But you know how what makes the Dean Martin Show so much fun is how incredibly unprofessional it is. And Dean wound up doing it because there was a guarantee that there'd be no real commitment on his part. So this is how these shows worked. And this is live television at its best. Dean would basically say, you guys write some funny stuff, and I'll come in on Friday. And that was it. And pretty much the staff would work all week putting the sketches and the bits together with no cooperation from Dean, no input, no nothing. They just would assume that it's not like Saturday Night Live where they actually rehearse it. It's like they do these things and they do the run, and then at some point you got to plug Dean in, and then Friday, 10 minutes before the show goes live, Dean comes wandering in and has no idea basically what's going to happen.
He's reading right off cue cards,
and he just walks in and he's reading off cue cards. Really has no clue how the show's going to just roll. He's just winging it. And they are screwing up left and right. And whenever he screws up and he starts laughing and he has to rewrite the cue cards. I mean, if you think that Jimmy Fallon screwed up a lot on Saturday Night Live, if you think that Harvey Korman losing it on the Carol Burnett show was hilarious, no contest. Dean Martin doesn't even try to mask it. He doesn't even camouflage it. And somehow that total lack of professionalism combined with his charm
it's
makes
endearing.
It's endearing. It's just irresistible. There's nothing like it. It's classic television.
Love it. Highly recommended. Not endearing is Teen Wolf, the complete season 1. Now, MTV, after destroying the American culture with the Hills and all that garbage, they decided that they were going to go back to scripted programming, and this was the first one out of the gate. Teen Wolf. This it airs on MTV. It reruns on Teen Nick. It's based on the movie from the mid '80s of the same name, and this show got kind of mixed notices. I think it was not really the right show for MTV to come out of the gate with in terms of scripted programming.
Not good.
But the disc is pretty good. Special features. There's a deleted alternate and extended scenes. There's a gag reel. There's a couple of featurettes. So I'm not a big fan of this show. I don't know that this is really a right fit for MTV. Although I guess, I can see why they do it because Teen Wolf fits into the whole Twilight vampire werewolf thing. So I get that. But this does not have that kind of intensity. To me, I felt it was a little bit overly dramatic, overwrought. Even for a teen thing, it was kind of overwrought. But it's still going. All new episodes are on Mondays on MTV. But if you did like season 1, it's available on DVD.
And lastly, we're going to make mention of Hell on Wheels, the AMC series, complete first season on Blu-ray, and this is coming back for another season. This is, they're trying to kind of revive the Western in a lot of respects, even kind of quasi-Westerns for television. And I don't know how successful this is. I certainly respect the attempt. It's got a good cast. I especially always like anything that Cole Meany is in. Cole Meany is just always so much fun to watch. He just brings such a such a great punch to everything, even when he's a supporting character. So we'll see how this goes, but it's a very good transfer, and AMC is, along with TNT, making a good stab at least switching it up a little bit on television. So Hell on Wheels, a little bit of a shaky but a very ambitious first season, and let's see if we can keep that deep, dark, cool, slick, reinvented anti-hero western going for a second season. With that, Mark, I think we're about at the end of our rope.
We're at the end of our rope?
We're at the end of our rope. So I think I'm going to raid your frozen cookies.
Really?
Yeah.